Hello, I'm Robin. Welcome to Bookspin. The theme I'd like to look at in today's video is sci-fi inventions. Science fiction is, of course, a field of literature that is ripe for intriguing technological innovations that capture the reader's imagination. I'm thinking things like cool gadgets and thought-provoking machines, or just plain weird inventions. These kind of things fascinate me. So I put together this list of 10 of my favourites that I've come across. Starting off with the Stoner from the Dayworld series by Philip José Farmer. This is my first pick, as it's very much fresh in my mind as I'm reading through this series at the moment. So the Stoner is a capsule that is capable of halting the quantum energy of the human body. This is a revolutionary piece of technology that utterly transforms Earth society of the future. Once you step inside the capsule and the Stoner is activated, all atomic and subatomic activity in your body stops, and you enter a state of suspended animation. This is called stoning. So in Dayworld, this technology provides the ultimate solution to overpopulation. Every citizen gets given one allocated day of the week in which to live before they have to retire to the Stoner at the end of the day. They remain stoned until their day rolls around again next week. Thus, the world only needs to provide for a seventh of the population at any given time, drastically reducing our demand for resources and food and living space and the amount of pollution that we produce. So this has truly groundbreaking implications for humanity and many interesting social consequences. This provides a fascinating backdrop for the story that unfolds in this thrilling series. Next up, we have Cavorite from The First Men in the Moon by H.G. Wells. This is a mysterious metallic substance that negates the force of gravity. It gets its name as the product of the brilliant, reclusive, eccentric Mr. Cavor, a classic mad scientist who is compelled to use his remarkable discovery to do something extremely bold and ambitious. If an object is wrapped within a sheet of Cavorite, this acts as a gravity shield, and so the object becomes weightless and floats up into the air. So what Mr. Cavor does is he decides to use this technology as a means of space travel. He teams up with a local businessman and he builds a spherical spaceship propelled by Cavorite blinds. These can be opened and closed to enable or disable gravitation. And using this means, the pair embark on a trip to the moon where they have all kinds of adventures. This is actually my favourite H.G. Wells novel that I've read. But I will admit that it's a pretty ludicrous concept and requires a healthy suspension of disbelief. In fact, Jules Verne was a particularly harsh critic of this novel because of Wells's use of Cavorite as an unscientific plot device. And to put this in context, Verne himself had previously written his own novel about a manned trip to the moon, which was called From the Earth to the Moon, by means of a giant space gun in Verne's case. And in Verne's own words, I sent my characters to the moon with gunpowder, a thing one may see every day. Where does Monsieur Wells find his Cavorite? Let him show it to me. Having read both of these books, though, I can tell you that The First Man in the Moon is a far more entertaining read. Next up, the Protophason Amplifier from Ubik by Philip K. Dick. Okay, so this is a weird one. The Protophason Amplifier is a portable device that allows the living to communicate with the dead, or to be more precise, communicate with those in half-life. You see, in the strange world of Ubik, half-life is a state of being whereby dead people continue to retain consciousness even after the body has died. The body gets put into cold pack straight after death, i.e. it gets cryonically preserved, and this is how half-life is maintained. Through the means of the Protophason Amplifier, the living can pick up the brain signals of those in half-life and establish a communication link. Pretty amazing, right? Also pretty creepy. However, it doesn't last forever. Your amount of time in half-life is limited as the brain signals decay over time after death. The more the Protophason Amplifier is used, the faster this decay will happen. It's a bizarre invention, for sure, and just one manifestation of the weirdness of this mind-boggling PKD novel. Next up, we have the Visi-Sonor from the Foundation series by Isaac Asimov. This is, I think, one of Asimov's most memorable and vivid creations. The Visi-Sonor, it's an astonishing musical instrument which generates holographic visual effects, as well as musical ones, by acting directly on the brain cells of the listener. The effect is an extremely immersive experience that also stimulates powerful emotional responses in the mind of the audience. It's known to be very difficult to play well, and in Foundation and Empire, it's used by the Mule, a mutant who has acute manipulative powers as a tool for mass psychological and emotional manipulation in his campaign for galactic domination. So in the wrong hands, the Visi-Sonor is a profoundly dangerous and powerful device. Next, the Thought Mirror from the Spiderworld series by Colin Wilson. This is a remarkable and mysterious piece of wearable technology that becomes a very important asset for the protagonist Neil in his journey to liberate a future post-apocalyptic human society from their oppressive spider overlords. So the Thought Mirror is a golden concave disc on a fine metal chain that amplifies the powers of concentration. It's basically a kind of necklace. You wear it around your neck, and when you turn the convex side outward, this has the effect of coordinating the mental vibrations from the heart, the brain, and the solar plexus. The first time that Neil uses it, he memorizes a whole city map in a very short time. So it's quite a handy tool, really. It has lots of applications, but it does have its drawbacks. The intensity of thought that the Thought Mirror provokes is very draining on the wearer, and thus it has common side effects of pain and fatigue. How exactly this device works is a bit of a mystery, but we do learn that it has its roots in Aztec civilization, where shamans would use it in meditation before performing a human sacrifice. The secret was later rediscovered by paranormal researchers in the late 20th century, so Colin Wilson tells us. So there are plenty of mystical vibes here, which is not that surprising really if you know anything about this author, because Colin Wilson was a well-known New Age writer outside of science fiction, having written extensively in fields such as mysticism and the paranormal. Next up we have the Penfield mood organ from Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. So this is another one of Dick's very strange visions of the future, in which we've got this home appliance that people use to regulate their emotions. Within the device is a Penfield wave transmitter, which acts on different parts of the brain. So by dialing a certain number into the machine, one can induce artificial mood changes. So, for example, dialing 481 will induce a feeling of hope, or as it's expressed in the novel, awareness of the manifold possibilities open to you in the future. But it can also stimulate negative emotions if you fancy a bit of novelty, or even something as bland as the desire to watch TV no matter what's on. And that's what you get when you dial 888. So it's an intriguing concept for sure, I think. Sometimes I feel like I wouldn't mind having a Penfield mood organ of my own around. I think that it could be handy. But, of course, the purpose of the machine within the novel is darkly satirical. It's a manifestation of human over-reliance on machines to the point where we're unable to feel emotion without using another machine. In other words, we're becoming more like machines ourselves. Next we have the sonic screwdriver from Doctor Who, which is of course a TV show, a very long-running TV series. But there are plenty of Doctor Who books out there, so I think it can still qualify for this list. I actually have one of my own, Harvest of Time by Alastair Reynolds. I don't normally go in for tie-in fiction, but this is Alastair Reynolds, so I had to pick this up. This particular novel features the Third Doctor, and it does include the sonic screwdriver within the story. Anyway, anyone who's familiar with the show will know that the sonic screwdriver is a very useful and versatile gadget that the Doctor uses for multiple applications. And it appears in multiple incarnations throughout the show's history. It may not be as iconic as some other symbols of the show, like the TARDIS or the Daleks, but it is certainly a recognisable feature of the show. So the Doctor uses the sonic screwdriver for just about anything. Examples include scanning objects to learn what they are, disabling locks, enabling locks, hacking computers, conducting medical scans, cutting and burning materials, projecting sound, creating force fields, deactivating camouflage, locating TARDIS coordinates, and even, would you believe it, tightening and loosening screws. So it's the ultimate multi-purpose tool and quite the marvel of technology. Next, the Somebody Else's Problem Field from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series by Douglas Adams. This is also known as the SEP field. It's a type of electronic shielding apparatus that is a useful way of hiding attention away from something you don't want others to see. So rather than actually making an object invisible, which Adams states would require an infinitely more complex technology, what the SEP field does is make people fail to notice whatever has been cloaked. Something that's not worthy of attention. It's a sort of psychological trickery that exploits the human tendency to ignore things that we can't easily understand or accept. For example, in a scene in Life, the Universe and Everything, which is the third book, during a public cricket match, none of the players or spectators take notice of the appearance of this giant spaceship overhead because of the application of an SEP field. So it's a very effective technology, and it can run for over 100 years on a single torch battery. Dangerous in the wrong hands, of course, but it's not totally foolproof. Very occasionally, the illusion will disappear if you catch the cloaked object by surprise out of the corner of your eye. Next, the Timebelt from The Man Who Folded Himself by David Gerrold. So ever since H.G. Wells and the Time Machine, the concept of a device that allows a person to travel through time has been a popular trope in science fiction. The Timebelt is a particularly handy and easy to use form of this. In this novel, we have a young college student, Daniel, who mysteriously inherits the Timebelt after his uncle passes away at the start of the story. And at first he doesn't know what it is, but he quickly discovers that it's a time machine that he can wear around his waist with a display panel and buttons that can be manipulated to allow the wearer to instantly jump forward or backward in time to a date and time of his choosing. So as Daniel experiments with this device, he comes to realize the ultimate power it gives him. The possibilities it allows him are endless. And as he cavorts back and forth into the future and the past, time travel becomes an addiction for him that consumes his whole life. So this is a mind-bending ride of a novel. It's very philosophical in tone. Daniel's adventures in time are a vehicle for exploring themes such as free will, responsibility, and the nature of selfhood. Is it always true, for example, that with great power comes great responsibility? If you have a time belt, perhaps not, because time travel gives you the freedom to instantly undo your mistakes. However, that doesn't mean that the mistake you made ceases to exist. It just means you've created a new timeline now where that mistake is no longer present. The old timeline may still continue to exist in a parallel reality. Anyway, the time belt is a fascinating piece of tech, and as wearable devices go, this has got to be the ultimate accessory. Convenient, user-friendly, and all-powerful. And finally, we have Slow Glass from Other Days, Other Eyes by Bob Shaw. This is a very intriguing substance and a good example of one of the many fascinating concepts that you can find in Bob Shaw's writing. It's a type of glass that slows down the passage of light as it travels through the material. So this could range from just a few seconds to a much longer period, even years. So if you look through a pane of slow glass, what you see is actually a delayed image from the past. So it's a kind of time viewer of a sort. In this novel, this technology is used for a variety of applications. The most interesting being, in my opinion, constructing scenic windows known as scendos. You take a pane of newly constructed slow glass, place it in an area of natural beauty, and leave it there for, say, 3 years, something like that, or however long it takes for the delayed light to pass through the glass. This can then be sold as a scene dough, which can be displayed in someone's home to give them a picturesque, real-time window into the past, effectively, that they can enjoy at any time. And this concept gets explored in a very poignant and memorable way in Bob Shaw's short story, Light of Other Days, which it is a standalone story, but it also gets included within Other Days, Other Eyes as an interluding chapter. So that completes the list. Thank you for watching, and if there are any more intriguing SF inventions that you think are worth discussing, please let us know in the comments. I'll see you again soon for some more science fiction content.